Today we're talking about fumbling the INFJ. Is it going to be the other person's biggest regret ever? So for the ones of you who are not familiar with this buzzword that's going around, so fumbling the bag or fumbling the dream girl, the dream guy, is all about losing the best thing that ever happened to you. And INFJs very often fall into this trap of thinking, people have to actually really regret this. They have to come to terms and understand that they really lost out on the best friend they could have ever had. They lost out on the best romantic partner they could have had. They just lost out on a really good person because of everything I did for that person. And so we go through life and very often we, look back and ask ourselves, okay, does this person really understand what they lost? They must understand it. But do they? And so it's like this constant ask of, do they, don't they? And it's something that INFJs struggle with very much, and probably more than most people, because of how much we sacrifice, because of how much we're willing to give away of who we are, how much we're willing to make another person feel good. And there's always this constant thought in our back of our minds, how can I solve that puzzle? How can I understand that person? Why doesn't this make sense? This person has to regret it. I just don't understand how it would work otherwise. So let's talk about it today because this is a very juicy topic and there's a lot to unpack here. And the lessons learned can be harsh, but they can be also beautiful. And once we allow to actually process all of this, we come out at the other end with so much gratefulness and so much joy and so much love for every person that came into our life and for every experience that we've had, that there are no harsh feelings, there is no resentment, there's just pure love and acceptance. And we just understand that unconditional love is not unconditional involvement. Before we get started, remember, if you haven't done this so far, to download the free poster on the INFJ Epic Life formula. And if you want to take it to the next level, then get the INFJ Epic Life audio guide. This is a do-it-yourself audio guide that allows you to tap into all of the steps in creating your INFJ Epic Life in the real world and on your terms. So this is really designed for INFJs, and it will get you to the next level. So I really recommend you checking it out. Everything you need to know you can find in the links in the description. There are two main themes that continuously seem to be part of the INFJ's life experience. And so one of them is this thing of, I want to be friends with this person. I want that person to be, a romantic partner of mine. And I know that they liked me at some point, but now they don't. And I'm trying to prove to myself that, I just had good intentions and I'm willing to sacrifice so much to prove to them how much I value them. And we so often go overboard and do things that, if a rational person would look at us, would say, what's wrong with you? Why are you overextending yourself like this? And for us, if we don't look at it from that perspective of how does that look from the outside, it makes complete sense because we see, oh, that person is suffering. They need the attention right now. They can't give it to themselves. And I just have so much to give. So why don't I give that to them? But very often this doesn't lead to a situation that is getting us to a good place because people will start taking you for granted. And that happens either if that person is accepting of your friendship or your love and is just taking advantage of it, or they're not even accepting of it and you continuously pour into them and they actually treat you even worse. They treat you like a doormat. They don't see anything that you're doing for them. And you pretty much come into this place of, I need to prove to them that I have good intentions, that I'm a good person. And I have to prove to them how much I'm willing to do for them because in our eyes, in that situation, that is a good person. But, always, when we get to those situations where we continuously give and are not getting enough back, so the typical INFJ scenario of I'm giving 70% into the relationship and I'm only getting 30 back, or, sometimes the 95-5 and we're just, looking at breadcrumbs because this gives us, a feeling of accomplishment, it will lead to a place of either door slamming or we start resenting that person or we just have to choose ourselves because there's just nothing left there. We've tried everything. We've given all that we have. And it seems like it's still not good enough. And so often we come to this place where we feel like we are worthless because we've outsourced the control of how good we feel about ourselves to another person. And that person isn't making us feel good for whatever reason, because they don't believe us, because they cannot forgive us, or whatever it may be. And so the only way to really get out of that situation is to take our power back. That is, how we always talk, like it will either lead to a door slamming situation or will just lead us to, go into another direction. And then there's always the thing in the back of our mind: was I just not good enough? Wasn't I a good enough friend? Wasn't I a good enough romantic partner? Like, I did so much for them and it still seemed like it wasn't enough. And this is feeding one of our biggest insecurities, which are that we're just not a good person and that we're worthless and that, other people deserve to be treated better than ourselves because we can take so much, and so therefore we should be able to give more than others, and that is what we expect of ourselves. And I'll talk about it in another video, like this entire aspect of how we can cultivate a sense of self and a sense of self-worth that is not leading us down that road. But in the fact of this fumbling aspect, there's always the thing that we hold on to because it makes us feel good, which is that person is going to regret it. They're going to recognize that they're not going to meet anybody who will do so much for them as I have. They will not meet somebody who will understand them the way I have. And so there's always this look back of, okay, is this person going to recognize it or not? And I'm here to tell you, as somebody who's experienced this way too often, and also as somebody who's talked to so many INFJs and worked with so many INFJs over the last 10 years, that that's not the solution. So, of course, that is not something that is new to us. We know this shouldn't be the solution. But why does it feel like I have to look and stay in that state? Why isn't it easier for me to actually move on? And that person might actually regret that they have lost you, because it is always like this. Like, you're not aware of what you're getting until it's gone. So if you, for example, grow up and you have like this great mom that cooks you 3 dinners a day and, prepares everything for school and is always there and everything is taken care of, you feel like that's the standard. You're not going to be appreciative of it in such an extent until it's not there anymore. Until, you live with another family for, let's say, a week or so, and you recognize, oh, how much, your mother actually did for you. And in so many cases, people are not going to be aware of everything that you're doing for them, particularly because our way of doing things isn't something like, oh, I'm going to, cook you a meal, or I'm going to help you out when you need somebody to move with you, or whatever it may be. What the thing is that we INFJs do is we show up in a different way that makes that person feel good about themselves without them actually having to change their behavior, right? So that is something that we do that is, not healthy in the long term, but we think it's like the good thing. That is like a low level need meeting, and it's totally fine. Like, I've done it so many times and it's like really a great tool, but we can do better. That's all I'm saying. We can do better. This is nothing that we have to be ashamed of, but it's like a part in our evolution. And the next part of our evolution is, of course, okay, I live out my truth. And through that, the other person has the option. So they have the choice to either listen to it or distance themselves to us. So this is the way it is. We're not forcing another person to get our point. We're not, saying, oh, you will regret, not staying with me and it will be bad for you. Well, maybe it will be, but that's everybody's prerogative. But the point is, you're never going to be the person again that you used to be for that relationship. Because the moment you actually have to step away from that, you do that by growing. You do that by saying, okay, I'm not going to outsource my feeling of self-worth onto that other person. I'm not going to continuously give so much to a person who's not appreciative anymore. And so I have changed. And so even if that person didn't change at all, so they stayed with all of their unhealthy habits and who they were, and there's just little to no progress, they might very well really regret fumbling the INFJ, because there's nobody who made them feel good while they're in the state that they're currently at. That might very well be the case. But the person that they fumbled doesn't exist anymore, because you, on the other hand, have learned your lesson. You have learned that you cannot show up as this person anymore. So even if they're missing the person that was there for them, that, gave everything for them because nobody else is doing that, That's not you. That's like the way you showed up. But who you truly are is the person that is taking care of themselves and who's not willing to give up all of that for them. Because back then, we actually had a different image of that person. We thought that person was, an angel. That person had so much pain and they couldn't hurt us and we just wanted to give. Now, that illusion doesn't exist anymore because we have understood that in order for this illusion to work, they have to actually appreciate us, because at some point when I can't take it anymore, I will change my image of that person. I will change how I see that person. And so I will never be able to see them the way I used to see them. So even if they didn't change at all and they recognize, oh, I want that back, what I used to have, that person doesn't exist. So there's no sense in looking back if that person really missed who you used to be, because what for? That version of you doesn't exist anymore anyway. And so what you actually want is to say, I'm going to, grow from that. I'm going to understand that there was something I was looking for in this relationship, and I thought that I need to give more than I'm getting back in order to feel good about myself. Which in itself is, not something that is rational if you think about it, right? We're still human, meaning we need to get energy back. And so the best way to look at it is really to say, okay, I'm going to grow and I'm going to live out my truth. And that person has a choice. Remember, we're letting go. So we're allowing that person to make a choice of if they want to listen to our truth and really grow from that, or if they don't. And if they listen to our truth and they grow from that, then they themselves will also not feel like they have fumbled. Because in that case, they will know that that old version of you, the way you showed up, doesn't exist anymore. They have grown and so have you. And so they know they haven't fumbled because they haven't had all that you are. Because you're so much more valuable and so much more authentically you by being everything that you are and making sure that you are giving to yourself first. So you're replenishing yourself. And that old version that gave everything to them, that's not who you are anyways. That was just this low version of ourselves that felt like I need to do all of that to deserve love. And so the best thing that we could hope out of the scenario is to actually look at that person and say, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming into my life and teaching me what I have to do. You are such a great life lesson. And I'm not even saying it from a place of that person treated me horribly. And I'm just thankful that, it happened to me because now I'm not going to make that mistake again, but actually really be grateful. To say that, if you look at it from a higher perspective, as in like, okay, so these souls or these like two entities, they had to come together to actually bring out the best of us. So this was just a redirection. And to really look at it and be thankful and, don't have any resentment, but also not give unconditional access. And definitely not through the ways we used to allow access before. So very often before was like, yeah, that person is giving you something, but it's like, I have to give 70 to get even 30 back. We're never going to give 70 again. So even if we would give 50, that person would have to give 50. There's no way we're going to go back into our old ways. And hopefully that person through that will grow themselves and look at us as well from a perspective of thank you for coming into my life, for teaching me this, but not really looking at it from the perspective of, oh, I fumbled the INFJ, because they never actually had our full version. They didn't. Like even everything that we wanted to give to them was always based on the fact that we weren't giving enough to ourselves. And so the end goal, of course, is that there is no attachment at all. So even as I said, there's unconditional love. We're allowed and are able to really love people from afar, from close, like really have positive emotions and have good intentions. But we're only going to give people access to ourselves when they're respecting our boundaries, when they're acting in a way that is, in alignment to where we want to go. And if we do that, we never actually have to look back, ever. We don't have to think about the fact, are they going to regret it or not? Because them regretting it or not has no impact of what you did for them. You always leave people the choice. People have the choice to look at the truth or look away from it. And none of that is a confirmation or a denial for everything that you did for them or everything that you were willing to sacrifice for them, or even the fact that you're a good person or not. Right? So everybody's going through their own pain. And even if you look at it from the perspective of, they're good people, they're just going through a lot of pain. Well, that might all be right. But you have to make sure that you don't allow that pain to come into your sphere, because at some point you're going to be human and you cannot take it on. So you want to create a system and a way of thinking and a way of going through life that doesn't enable this kind of behavior. So we don't want people to think that they fumbled us, because that would actually mean that they still think we're the old version of ourselves and that they haven't grown themselves, right? We're going to grow, and we're allowing another person either to meet us where we're at now and to talk to us in a way that we now feel is acceptable, not through the old ways. And that way you never really fumbled anything to begin with. Or they stay where they're at, they're not growing, and they might get to a place where they recognize, oh, I will never have such a good friend or such a good companion or somebody who cared about me so much as the INFJ, but they're not willing, able, or capable of, growing themselves and meeting you at a new place. So every single time you think about, does that person regret fumbling me? Take your energy back. Focus your energy on where you're going and showing up the way you are, and just understand we were never in control of one another to begin with. People come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And even nowadays, the person that have hurt me the most, in so many ways, I'm most grateful for, because it really allowed me to find myself. And there might be so much love and appreciation for the situation and for looking at it, from a higher space, but that doesn't mean that we're going to give that person unconditional access again. Because every single time we have a situation like this, we learn that the one thing that we need in order to be complete is to create a narrative that is never up for debate of what another person thinks of us, how much they appreciate us, or any of that. So always think of it, I don't want to fumble the INFJ. I'm not going to fumble me. I'm going to make sure that I value me from now on, because the person who really fumbled, back then was us. But we can get back into our own good graces by choosing ourselves and making sure we're complete and whole, and only start giving while we're making sure that we're feeling our best. Remember, if you want some more insights how to anchor yourself into reality and make sure that that narrative of yours that you want to live out is really solid, then get the INFJ Epic Life Formula poster. And if you want to take it to the next level, like understanding all the processes within that, and also learn how to take action, because that's a super important part, probably the most important one for us INFJs, then get the INFJ Epic Life audio guide. Everything you need to know you can find in the links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then check out the video you see on the screen right now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.